Hi, I'm David Lynch. We're going to extract all the information from QuickBooks today and import it into BusinessGT. This is the schedule of work that we need to undertake. So we need the opening balances, sales transaction detail, and that will mean that BusinessGT will create sales invoices and put PDFs in the library of them. Purchase invoice expenses by supplier, and it will create the invoices in the system. And then journals. So log on to QuickBooks, in the reports, go to Accountants and Taxes, and then go to the trial balance. In the trial balance, pick up the date that you want to pick up, and in that trial balance it will then show you the balances at that time. If there are profit and loss items in there, we'll just need to remove them. So at that point we can then click Excel, create the new spreadsheet. So the file you'll get will look like this. In the left hand side, put the date in, because QuickBooks doesn't do that for you, and on every row we want the information on that's needed. And then in the cumulative profit and loss at the bottom, we've just got a value there which replaces all of the profit and loss items that were in the trial balance. That balances, and so now that's ready to import to BusinessGT. We'll just change the tab name and that's ready to go. Okay, so now we can go to the next, which is extracting all of the sales invoices. Okay, now we can go back to the reports. In the company and financial, we can see here we've got income by customer detail. In there we want to put in the start of the period and the end of the period that we're looking for. Refresh it. That gives us the information. Now in this file, QuickBooks doesn't have quite the information that we need, so we need to customize the report and add the VAT code, that's essential, and the VAT amount, that's also essential, into the report. We need the amount just clarifying as the net amount so we can balance it correctly, and then we want the paid flag included. That's our QuickBooks report. We can now export it to Excel, and that will look like this. Because QuickBooks doesn't always put information in that we actually need, we need to put some formulas in. And so what you can see here is the formula that we're going to use. And so this is a simple if statement, and depending on what's there it will then copy it down. And we need to put that into several places. Every column needs to have a field name, and we need to just be sure that every line has enough information on it so that in BusinessGT we understand what to do with it. We then need to pivot this data, which then looks like this, and in the pivot, as you can see, we've now got in filters, we've got the type that we're using. So that now tells us what filters we need for our original sales data here. So we press Ctrl A to highlight everything, we filter it, and then once we've got the right filters in, we click the top left and copy, and then we can range value that into a new tab called our Sales Import tab, which is this one, and we'll just range value that into here. So that tab, which I've named Sales Import, is now ready to import into BusinessGT. So now we can go back to the reports, pick up the expenses by supplier detail, and basically do the same on this report as we did on the sales invoices. When you produce that, the information that you have will look similar to this. Set the filters that we want, highlight, copy, Ctrl C, and then go to our purchases sheet and range value all that data in here. When you range value in all of these files, you will need to make sure that the dates that you've got are formatted as dates, not as numbers. That's ready for import into BusinessGT. So now the final of our items that we were going through on these is the journals. So we can go to the reports, accountant and taxes, and journal. And on this report, what I would recommend that you do is you do the same as previously. So we customize it and we add the VAT lines, and when you finish that you'll get a report that looks like this. The detail here is similar to the previous items where you need to make sure that there is a field name in every column, and so the date is important. Now with journals you also need to make sure that the net amount is correctly calculated, because in BusinessGT there is only one amount column or a value column. There aren't two. So that you can now pivot. It looks like this, and just make sure that the journals that you've got are going to the right place. If you need help with that, give us a call on the support line. You need to buy some credits, and this then will be reconciled back to the P&L. So it means that we can then take the item in all the original data, Control A, copy that, and set the filter set the filter on, modify the filters, and then you copy range value, those items that you want to copy, into the working sheet. And so that now is what you can import. Okay, so we've now got all 4 files and we're ready to do the import. So now we can take our QuickBooks exported files and bring them into BusinessGT. We do that in this order. So we're going to take the opening balances in after we've cleared the data, if there's anything there, and then we're going to bring in sales, purchases, and then journals. And this PDF is on the website. So you log on, click the admin, in the imports, go to delete core. Now in this there's some nominal ledger items that we need to remove, but at the moment there's nothing else, so we'll remove those nominal items and then rebuild totals. So that rebuild totals will allow us to rebuild all that reporting data from whenever we want to start reporting it from, and we'll process it from the first of the 416, because we know that's before anything that's in the nominal. So we'll then just clear the totals. So we should now be able to go back to the profit and to the balance sheet and see that there's nothing there. So there is nothing there now. So admin, import, and then number 10, opening balances. Choose the file, opening balances, open that, upload that into a provisional temporary file. Get the tab that we've created when we created it in QuickBooks, import it. We then tell the system which row has got the field names in. In this case it's row number 2. We'll continue, and now we'll map the fields from our imported file across to BusinessGT. And so the BusinessGT field name that we require is in the drop down field. So there's the action date is the critical one, the nominal ledger code, the debit credit value, and then there's a blank one in QuickBooks, and then there's a credit field. And now in BusinessGT we've only got one value field, so we need to use this credit only value, credit multiplied by -1. So the total is 0. We'll continue that. Then we come to the mapping of your old account references to BusinessGT account references. If you edit these items in here, what that will do is update the BusinessGT so it has your changed, modified account reference in there. You can click into the account reference, and if you were to delete that, it then gives you the drop down of everything that there is available, and it's a very simple search mechanism on all that. Search for a letter or a word. If we're happy, we can continue. Does this represent opening balances? Answer yes, and it's the 31st of the 3rd 2018. and then we can delete all detail items if we wanted to do after that date, and then we'll import. That doesn't take long. We can then go to the profit and loss report, into the balance sheet, and we can now see that we've got all of the balances in. At the bottom of the page, the balance sheet is 0, which is what you'd expect if all the double entry has been done correctly. So now we can go and import the sales invoices first of all. So we'll go to import, and then 15 accounts, sales purchase journal, purchase and journals, and then the first one is sales invoices. So we'll choose the file, we'll get the sales transactions that we prepared earlier, we'll upload that to the temporary table, select the tab, and it's the one in this case called sales import. 100 rows in this case. Tell it again which row is the field name, and then we come to the mapping of the imported fields, and we need an invoice reference. So we need the, because what will happen is BGT will show you which fields it needs that you do need to map. So that's the invoice number. Okay, now at this next page, this will also show us little triangles if there are things that are not known or not reconciled. Click on those and then complete them. This then takes you to the list of everything that BusinessGT is going to import. You can check that against your previous list if you wish. We'll tick everything and then import it. Okay, that import's complete. So now we can go back to the summary P&L and review what has been processed. Great. So now we're ready to import the purchases, which we'll treat very similarly to the sales. So for purchases, we click the purchase invoice section and then import the file. Okay, and then we complete the mapping, and then we can import everything to the purchase. Okay, the system is much faster to process purchases than sales invoices because it's not generating a PDF for each invoice. So now we can go across to the P&L, have a look at it, P&L, and so now in the profit and loss we've got some costs in there. That's looking much more like it. Okay, so that's your accounts all complete. Profit and loss imported from QuickBooks and reconciled via the pivot tables. That's done. Thanks for watching.